Mic check. Back at it. Coastal Chronicles NYC, live and direct from Podcast Central. I couldn't start or even end the show without shouting out the sponsor. We about to get activated, y'all. I got the sponsor here, all the way from you already know, that good old Duce action. Yeah, Dren Starr, talk to me, Dren. Talk to me.
Here, man. We got a big one. We got a big one. So, we here. We got Duce in the building, Coastal Chronicles NYC. You know what I'm saying? Podcast Central. We about to activate something different. You know what I'm saying? We got a big guest in the building.
Talk to him.
You know what I'm saying?
Talk to him.
So, we gonna crack this can. We gonna crack this can. This mighty joyful nitro lemonade. You know what I'm saying? We gonna salute the boss man right here.
Oh man, thank you, brother. Thank you.
Those is making big waves in the nightlife right now. That Duce lemonade.
That Duce lemonade is the biggest in the world. You know what I'm saying? Or the nightclubs, or the festivals. You know what I'm saying? You see what's going on. You see what's going on.
That's a mighty Duce right there.
Here we go. You know what I'm saying? Hold on, I gotta pour myself some of this.
Mighty Duce.
If I do say so myself.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
Listen.
Hey yo, who we got in the building?
Listen, with that being said, this gentleman right here, when I was in the rabbit hole, learning who this man was, his story, is the reason why I do this.
Everybody knows Johnny Nunez. Johnny's here!
What's up, man?
Johnny, don't sell me my pictures back.
Johnny, thank you so much.
What up, Nunez?
What's up, Kaiser?
Johnny.
You good? What up, baby?
What's up, Johnny?
Hold on, let me get... Right over here, Tiffany.
My name is Johnny Nunez. I know that voice.
I love you, Wayne. I know that. All right, let me get one last shot.
Oh, that's my guy!
Yeah, I was trying to get a shot, but security wouldn't let me go, near you.
Oh,
it's all right.
damn.
It's all right. It's all right.
I got celebrity photographer, networker, facilitator, and now an entrepreneur of Mighty Joyful Lemonade. Give it up for Johnny Nunez, y'all.
All right. Hello, everybody.
Yes.
Thank you so much for having me on this beautiful podcast show. I'm honored.
Listen, Johnny, I'm going to tell you right now, man. Yeah. I respect you, my brother. I believe the culture has gained from you being a part of it.
Thank you.
And when I put the Duce signal out, like I told you pre-recording, I emailed you because I wanted this to happen.
Sorry about that.
No. It's not a problem. Listen, we all move. Listen, Hov said it best. 8 million stories out here in the naked. Some of y'all won't make it.
True.
You feel me?
Yeah.
And we about to give my listeners a part of your history.
Yeah.
So with that being said, my brother, once again, it's a pleasure and an honor.
Thank you, man. Thank you so much.
Just give my people a little bit of your beginning. You know what I'm saying?
So you want me to tell you about photography or
No. Photography is when God placed.
Oh yeah.
It was that time.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying?
Yeah, so,
nobody's born with a silver spoon.
Yeah, no.
So I need you to give them the story from foster care to you being the man that you are today.
Totally. So, I was adopted when I was 2 years old. I was born and raised in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, to a beautiful woman named Maria Mary Nuñez and my father, Genito Nuñez. They got me when I was 2 years old. So I was raised in a amazing Puerto Rican family that showed me everything. I mean, I got my ass whooped like everybody else. We had plastic on the furniture. We had Jesus pictures on every wall in velvet or without velvet. We had like a picture of Jesus where his eyes were closed and his eyes were open. His eyes were closed and open. Every summer we went to PR when we could afford it. And we pretty much, unfortunately, growing up, we were born in, I was raised in Greenpoint. So it was the borderline. And this I would say to everybody listening, this was when you couldn't be Latin and go down that block. You couldn't be white and go down that block. You couldn't be black and go down that block. You had to go through a special GPS to avoid getting stomped on, Unfortunately for me, being black and Latino, I was born on the white side. So every day I was called nigga, spick, bottles being thrown at me. I had to literally sometimes time how quick can I get to the Puerto Rican side? Wow. How quick can I get to the black side? And stay there until the crazy mobs of racist kids running with bottles. This wasn't like once in a while. This was like every day. And but I was just so thankful to God that I had a family that loved me, took me in as their own, and I wasn't going back to foster care. You feel me? So whatever I had to do to stay out of trouble and do the best I could. So my mom, who adopted me, Mary, she sold Avon. My dad worked at a factory making Trident bubble gum. So they were first immigrants from Puerto Rico, from St. Sebastian and Ponce. And when they came to America, my dad and mother met, and they gave birth to my brother Eduardo, Carlos, Charlie, and Paul, and my sister, who was the oldest, Maria. So just to be first generation Puerto Rican and pretty much like, have discrimination and trying to be the best that they could be as new immigrants to this country, my mom had such a big heart that she said, she would, sometimes take in children. Whenever someone gives a child up, right, the foster kids can't just take you in. They have to find someone to watch you for a while. I think the word was called cuddlers, meaning someone's gonna watch you for a while, or you go right straight to foster care home. I was in a foster care home, but because I was so young, they said you can't be here that long. So they called my mother, and she already got 4 kids. You know what I'm saying? But
Biological?
They said to her, "Huh?
Biological?
No, the adopted family."
Okay. So all
No. They were biological.
Okay.
And my mom said, "Yo, you know what?" They said, "Maria, Doña, can you watch Johnny for us?" And my mom said, "Look, I've been doing this for a while," because she used to take care of a bunch of different kids, and they were just reckless. Come in your house, do all kind of crazy shit, steal shit, bully the other kids. So my dad said, "Yo, you gotta cut that shit out." But when they called my mom, my social worker, Miss Millon, she said, "There's something special about this boy. Give him a chance." So my sister Maria and my brother Paul said the running story in my family is that when my mom saw me, she said, "I really hope that that's the boy." And it was me, thank God. And the running story is that when my mom was presented to me, I lifted up my arms like, "Where you been?" So we always crack jokes about that. So it was love at first sight, and they took me in. And when you become a foster care child in someone's home, it's sort of like a trial. You don't know if they're going to keep you. You don't know if you're going to be bad, or there's a lot of problems with some of these children. The older you are in the system, the harder it is for you to assimilate. So thank God, at the age of 2, I wound up being adopted officially as Johnny Nuñez at the age of 5. So unfortunately, 5 years after, or rather 8 years later, my mom unfortunately passed away. She had a stroke. And so my dad had to raise me. But my older brothers and sisters they were already old, you know what I'm saying? I stole my brother Eddie's spot as the youngest. So I kind of came home as a latchkey kid. I would come home, I would make pernin, arroz con pollo, salad, rice, beans, you name it. I made everything from scratch because I watched my mom make it. So by the time my dad would come home, I'd be like, "Yo, Dad, look, I made all this food." I was 10 years old. You know what I'm saying? I could cook now pretty much. But my dad would just start crying because he knew my mom showed me everything. And one thing about my mother was that she raised us not just to work hard, but she also made sure that we knew how to cook. And, shout out to my wife, because if you can cook, you know what I'm saying, it's the way to a woman's heart. I think it's the reverse. But, one thing I learned about my mother was that as she sold Avon, she was always networking. "Hey, so-and-so, do you know so-and-so from the block?" And she was a quick network study. I would always just watch how she was able to talk, be polite to people and respectful. And at the same time, she had a Puerto Rican temper. You know what I'm saying? I one time got jumped by these twins named Jose and Javier. And every day they would just wait for me to get to the school to just punch me, kick me, and just jump me, like old school jump. You know what I'm saying? You fight one and another one's hitting you behind the back. You turn around. It was one of them type of situations. And so my mom just got so angry about, the tormenting and the bullying that she said, "Yo, Johnny, we're going to go to their house right now. I was like, no, Mom, don't. I don't want no problems. You know what I'm saying? And sure enough, and she began to speak Spanish to the mother of the both of them. And they came out, and my mother basically told her, everything your children are doing to my son, I'm about to do to you right now. Rolling up the sleeves. Step outside. Come outside right now. And I was like, Mom, no, Mom, you know. And she brought her 2 twin sons out, and she began to whip their ass with a leather belt. And then she said, Doña, is this enough? My mother said, is that enough, Johnny? I'm like, no. Started whipping their ass right in front of us. My mother's like, is that enough? I'm like, no. I mean, till finally their asses were red, their arms were red, they were both crying. And then my mother said, if you ever touch my child ever again, it ain't gonna be your mother hitting you. You understand? And I'll never forget that. So my mother always told me, like, you know, if you ain't gonna stand up for yourself and you have friends that will support you, catch that nigga outside. You know what I'm saying? So the moral story is that, you know, I don't give up, and never take the abuse of people stems from her teachings, you know. Don't get me wrong. When I was out of line, shit, I get a TV thrown at me. You know what I'm saying? But for the most part, my mother and father were the most dynamic parents that anyone could ever have. Because we didn't have a lot, but with the little that we had, my mom still would see neighbors that needed sugar, that needed flour, that needed money. You know what I'm saying? She would put money in the envelope, knock on the door, and just like put it right by the doorway. And just, we would be by across the street, like, and an old lady would just, like, you know, lift up the envelope, inspect it, open it, and start crying. And so that later on led me to become active in my church when I lived in Brentwood, Long Island. So my aunt Ouija, Titi Ouija, my aunt bought a crib in Brentwood, Long Island. And my dad, you know, he wasn't crazy, but living in a house after your significant other passes away is really hard to live in the same place. So after 3 years of living in Greenpoint, Brooklyn, I don't know, I guess my dad had a meltdown, and he was sick of all the crazy shit. Like, white boys would really come to my crib to fight me just because I was black and Latino. There was no other person of color in that white area. So they would be like, come outside. So my dad...
How old are you at this point?
I was like 9 years old, 8 years old. I still... My stupidity or my ignorance, I had no idea what racism was. I really didn't. I just knew that, you know, just be a good person. My mom was Catholic Christian. She raised us to love everybody. So I was like confused. I'm like, why these people want to fight me? I don't even know what the word spick means. I don't even know what the word, you know, nigga meant, you know, all that shit. So it was really odd. So my dad, he grabbed a revolver and he stepped outside, and one of our neighbors stopped him from using it on these KKK type of motherfuckers. Can we curse on the show? Yeah. So my dad just had a breakdown. Like, he was just like, he didn't want to live in the house no more. My mom passed away. And to top it all off, my sister Maria had to go to Brentwood to hide from her husband. Whenever he would beat her and other relatives, my brothers would beat him. So while he's looking for my sister, my brothers were looking to kill him, not hurt him, kill him. They beat that nigga's ass at every party we ever threw, backyard party. There would always be a stomp out. This nigga, every appliance, everything. He was like the Terminator. You know what I'm saying? Niggas still talk shit, bloodied up. You know, like blood is coming out of every orifice, and he's still talking shit. So finally, my aunt Ouija said, come to Brentwood, Long Island. So being that they were from Puerto Rico, and being at the time you can get a lot of land, my Uncle Hector, that motherfucker made a farm. We had chicken, ducks, we was roasting pigs. He had the straw hat out. He was playing the guitar. You would literally feel like you was in Puerto Rico when you would go to Brentwood, Long Island. So my dad was like, you know what? Let me sell the house and we out. So just as at the age of 13, my dad said we move into Brentwood. So I go to Brentwood and I'm like, shit, there's nobody out here that's gonna know breakdancing. There's nobody out here that's gonna know rapping. We out here in fucking the boons. There's no lights. There's one light every like 2 miles. Lightning bugs were the only source of light in the night. Aside from that, the stars. And I was just like, my dad was like, you know, don't worry, Johnny, it's gonna be a better life for us. It's gonna be me, you, Maria, my nephews, and my niece. which my nephews were really like my age because I was adopted into a family while my sister had her first child. So I go to school the first day, and I could see SWAT teams going, get back, get back. Helicopters, SWAT teams, guys with special guns, all dressed in black. And I go back home, and I'm like, Dad, school told us to go home. Turned out, this was the first Columbine. A disgruntled substitute teacher was angry with the kids and all. He came back the next day with a rifle, shot the principal right in the head. He's lucky, the principal Wolfgang, the bullet went through his jaw, went through his cheeks, and and broke his whole mouth. And he fell to the ground, and the gunman continued to go through classroom to classroom. And he took the blood that was coming out of his face and put it all over his face. So when the gunman finally came back to shoot him again, he nudged him with the barrel. And he took the whole entire cafeteria hostage. A sniper shot him through the glass and killed him. So I was like, Dad, crack was becoming a big epidemic in my neighborhood. I'm like, Dad, let me get this straight. We leave Brooklyn because of drugs, gangs, and other issues, and to come to where these motherfucking people got guns and kill. So my dad was like, don't worry, it's gonna get better. Next day I go to school, I see some of my best friends, my Dominican brothers. They were there, embraced me. There's a guy named Craig Mack. There was a guy named Eric Sermon. There was a guy named Parrish Smith. And in 7th grade, I'll never forget, this MC comes to promote. He was from high school or graduating, but he's still, if you're from my town, Brentwood, Long Island, it's really like a village. So this guy comes in with his flyers, and he's like, I want to. I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Bismarck. And it was Bismarcky. And he was promoting his show at a nightclub called Electric Avenue. And I'm like, yo, I can't believe it. This is Brentwood, Long Island? And some kid named Keith Murray from Central Islip was battling some other kid, JVC. So long story short, I was just happy that I wasn't alone from Brooklyn. And, every time there was an issue with racism, out of nowhere, I'll never forget, some kid wanted to bully me in math class, and all of a sudden, as the kid was like, yo, when we go outside, I'm gonna fuck you up. And before I could know, I felt a hand grab me, and the guy pushed me back, and I'm like, oh shit. And it was my boy Carlos Acosta. Shout out to Carlos Acosta. He said, you got a problem with my cousin? He goes, I don't got a problem with your cousin. If you got a problem with your cousin, you got a problem with me. And before you knew it, 15 Dominican kids that I had never met in my life surrounded this nigga. And he was like, no, it's all good, it's all good, it's all good. And I quickly was like, holy shit, there's unity in numbers. And before you knew it, my best friend, Wellington Tejeda, since my mom had passed away, my first language I learned was Spanish. But when my mom passed away, I just forgot everything. And I didn't really want to talk about anything that would connect me to the language because I guess I was depressed, But my best friend's mom said, en esta casa, tú te vas a practicar con nosotros. You're going to learn how to speak Spanish again. So I was now one day in my crib, the next day in the Tejeda house. So before you know it, I started learning about sancocho, learning about Mama Juana. It inspired me to make, can I talk about it now?
Yeah.
It inspired me to incorporate it in this new product that we'll talk about. So I had now a support system. And on top of that, I love to dance because of my upbringing. We dance salsa, merengue, Hector Lavoe. I don't know if anybody knows Hector Lavoe. That was the god in our crib, you know what I'm saying? And so Willie Colon, you name it, our house was always filled with music and dancing. My mom would always dance with me at every party. I'd stand on my dad's foot and learn the steps. And my whole family that raised me was just amazing. So it was an easy transition when I heard Rapper's Delight. I immediately fell in love with hip hop. And my brother Eddie was like, this is when we still lived in Brooklyn. He's like, yo, Johnny, you want to buy that album? I'm like, yeah, what's up? He's like, how much money you got in your shoebox? Back then there was no bank. It was a shoebox with as much money I got from relatives and some of the street pharmacists of the
Oh,
neighborhood.
there was banks back then. We just wasn't, we had the shoebox rule.
Yeah. Oh,
He
yeah.
wasn't privy to that.
So my brother was like, yo, it's $3 for the album. You put in $1.50, I put $1.50. I was like, damn, that's a lot of money. So I put in we put the $3 in, we bought Rapper's Delight. Every day we would play it, like maybe 4 or 5 times a day we were allowed to play it. And then my brother's like, okay, Johnny, here you go. He gave me the album cover. I'm like, yeah, but what about the album? He's like, I keep the album, you keep the cover. I was like, oh no. My brother was always jerking me. But anyway, long story short, as I was growing up, I actually became more and more involved with foster care and helping the homeless with a church that I attended called St. Anne's Church. And so as I was getting closer to college years, I ain't gonna lie, they put me in special ed. I was like yellow bus, hockey helmet looking. I didn't have no hockey helmet, but I'm just saying that's the level that they put me in. My professors told me, yo, Johnny, or my teachers told me as we were getting closer to high school, what you want to do with yourself. You all have your own guidance counselor. And I said, I think I want to go to college. And my guidance counselor told me, Johnny, I really think what you should do is get a factory job and get married and have kids. So I was like, but what about college? Don't worry about college, man. You better off getting a job at a factory. So I could almost feel the presence of my mother. And I already felt like there's no way that she would let me give up on life and just, no disrespect to factory workers. So I applied to a community college and I got accepted. By the way, during high school, we used to go to nightclubs. At the age of 15, like I said, I was running with a wild pack of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. We would literally sneak out of our windows, take the Long Island Railroad to Penn Station, and we would go to the Sound Factory, the Tunnel, the Underground, Wild Pitch, The World, Studio 54. So between 15 or maybe even 14, back then you slide a dub to the security and you were 21, you know what I'm saying? So we was learning all the house music dance steps. And I'm gonna keep it real. I was probably one of the nicest house dancers back then. Till this day, all my friends, we goof and laugh about how we used to battle cats from the city, only to find out when they would say, yo, who are you from? I'm from Brentwood, Long Island. Where the hell is that? They didn't know we was from Brentwood, Long Island. So we learned all the house steps. And then when we got back to Long Island, we were the illest niggas. And so we wound up, I beat Mark Anthony in a dance battle. I beat Q-Tip in a dance battle. Don't worry, y'all very successful. You probably don't even remember me. You know what I'm saying? But my friends always talk about that.
They definitely know who you are.
Oh yeah, back in the days, 2 in the Room. I think Mark Anthony was a dancer for 2 in the Room. That's Esa Loca, if you guys know about house music. And I was always in the circles, just battling people. Shout out to Gungi Rivera, by the way, because he had a Roseanne reunion on Sunday. And that was amazing in Queens. Maduro, I think the club was called.
He started DJing again.
Yeah.
After like
He's
30 years,
nice. Right? He's nice. So, so fast forward, I got accepted to Suffolk Community College, and through the grace of God, matter of fact, before I even get to that, shout out to Soda, who saved my life. On my first semester of college, I went to a regular backyard summer party. So, when you go to college, if you did or if you never went to college, you sort of like become a big homie when you are in your first semester and you go back to the high school that you was at before. And there was a girl named Naomi Daniels. She kind of had a little thing for your boy. So I went to her backyard party. And I would go to all the backyard parties. People wanted to see me dance, and I was all into Doc Marten boots, and my hair was like dreads back then, so I was looking good and all. And a fight broke out, and we were getting robbed. Everybody, it was like 3 cars pulled up to a backyard party. That's how they do it in Long Island. Just so y'all know, people think Long Island is soft. You got shit twisted. They will rob you, and they will beat your ass. They'll kill you, period. Because there was nothing to do in Long Island but fight or do something crazy. So I tried to protect 2 girls I knew from the same high school, Ingrid Cintron and Wanda Pacheco, and I saw this dude just come to like take their chains. I don't know who I thought it was Super Nigga, you know what I'm saying? I pushed him out the way. I'm trying to fight. I don't really know how to fight at the time. I'm just like, and before you know it, my ex-girlfriend or my first college girlfriend, she didn't want to go to the party. So she said, I'm gonna sleep in the car, you know, where I'm parked. So as I was going to see her to escape with everybody else, there was a gunshot in the air and now everybody was just running. And as people were running, these groups of guys from Wine Dance, they were just snatching chains, run your wallet, run your shoes. They were just robbing people. So as I was running to the car, I saw a bunch of my high school friends, kids that are in the 12th grade, fighting back. And I said, damn, man, what kind of man am I? If I'm going to run, I should go back and fight with them. So I turned around, and just as I was running to jump into this gigantic riot, they were actually retreating, running in the direction that I was coming from. So I literally ran right into a rock'em sock'em session. I was getting rocked. I was getting beat. Bats, 40-ounce bottles, if any of y'all know what 40-ounce bottles are, they was hitting me with the bottle, and that's how the Holy Spirit works. The bottles were bouncing off my head. And it went from a beating to homicide. And now I was getting stomped out. And I could see, like, they already took my sneakers, my pockets already looked like rabbit's ears. All my money I didn't have much money, but they were robbing me. And so one guy picked me up and he body slammed me. But when he body slammed me on a tree stump. So my back was like, to this day, my back is jacked up. So next thing I know, I didn't feel no more pain, but I could smell blood. And I could feel there was no more pain. I felt as if when you're underwater, the sound of people yelling or talking was drowned out. And the Duce's not talking yet, but I saw me looking down at me as guys were just taking turns beating me. And as I saw them, I was slowly moving up. And as I was moving up, I turned my body this way to the sky and I saw a light. I will never forget the light. And I said, God, please, not like this. Not like this, God. And never in a million years did I think this was going to be it. I said, God, if you give me one more chance, I swear I'm gonna be the best at whatever you do for me. In Jesus' name. I remember my mom told me how to pray. So y'all don't have to believe me, but from the distance of like a street light, I felt my whole entire body fall right back into my body. But that was after I heard this. My boy Soda Pop pulled up with a 9 and shot the gun like 5 times in the air. And then he was just like, who want it? Who want it? Come on, Johnny, get the fuck up. And I was just out of it. I was like SpongeBob. I was just like, he grabbed my arm and dragged me. And I knew I was in trouble because as he was dragging me, you ever see a mop with water? I just saw like a mop of blood. And I knew something was wrong. So he tried to put me in a car. A guy named Gary Foster had the new Honda Prelude. And you know, when you in high school and you got a brand new car, he's like, he's not gonna die in my car, not gonna die in my car. So then finally Soda found where my ex-girl was. And when she saw me, she screamed in horror. So I was like, don't take me to my house. My dad cannot see me like this. So I stayed at her mom's crib for like 3 or 4 days, and I went to the hospital. I was fucked up. But when I finally got to my crib, my dad said to me, you know, you want to go hang out with your friends? You know what I'm saying? Just know, you know, I don't like that, and you're welcome in this house, but you got to live by my rules. And next thing I know, here, and it was some of my boys from Brentwood that also got beat, and they were going to Wine Dance to
retaliate.
Can I say this on the podcast?
Retaliate.
Not retaliate.
We gonna keep it as retaliate.
Yeah, they were going to even the score. And my father told me, Johnny, if you leave this house and you get arrested, do not call me. Do not call me. And it was like sort of like menace to society. I looked at, it was like at least 5 cars filled with Brentwood cats. They had every weapon you could imagine. We were going to Wine Dance to get vengeance. And I told the dude, mind you, the guy that knocked on my door, my boy Felix, God bless him, he was black, but because the same group, they grabbed him by the ankle, they dragged him like 10 blocks. So his ass, back, his whole back was pink.
Twisted.
So he's black, his whole back is pink. That's from dragging him in a car. So unfortunately for those guys that jumped me, and as well as the other friends of mine, a lot of them unfortunately passed away. God bless the dead. But I'm still here with y'all.
Shit, let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
So
Cheers,
thank you.
brother.
Yeah. That's a long one. You don't have to edit that shit down.
No. Listen, brother. This is the whole thing that I'm trying to say, right?
Yeah.
I gotta saying that I tell people all the way, right? You know, your beginning does not define your ending or your middle. You feel me? So everything that you went through, foster child, even that situation there, and we're gonna get a little bit more before we get to you becoming a photographer or even having that. Matter of fact, just before we even get into that,
Yeah.
what? All right, even though the guidance counselor said that go work for a factory, did you know what you wanted to do with your future? Like, what did you want to be prior to him telling you that?
Well, one of my good friends, Sammy Pizarro, his father was a radiologist. And I was like, when I went to this cat's crib, he had literally like a smaller version of the White House. And just like my family, he was a second generation Puerto Rican family. But they had the in-ground pool. They had 2 white pillars. I thought when he had a backyard pool party, I was just so mesmerized by this beautiful house. And I asked Sammy, yo, Sammy, what does your dad do? He goes, my dad is a radiologist. I'm like, oh, man. I was like in 8th grade, like, wow, I want to be a radiologist. So that always stuck in my head. But me being an idiot, when I was in Suffolk Community College, and by the way, when I got accepted into a community college, Suffolk Community College, I literally became like Rain Man. I had a thirst for knowledge. I was getting A's. I couldn't put books down. I was reading left and right. I joined the African Association Club, African American Association Club. I joined the American Land Association called ALAS. I became a member of the Student Senate, a writer for the school paper. I was like, everything I wanted to ever learn, I had a thirst for knowledge. So while I was there, I was about to graduate from Suffolk Community College, and my guidance counselor then was like, yo, what do you want to do next? I'm like, I want to join some medical program. So he said, there's a program at Nassau Community College that has radiology. So I go there. This is how I became a photographer. I go there and I fill out the application, but instead of radiology, you know what I filled out? I filled out the application for radiation therapy oncology. So I didn't even know what the hell that was. So I thought I'm going to take x-rays of broken legs and broken arms and your typical radiologist, that x-ray technician. It's just a fancier word. No, Johnny, this is radiation therapy. You'll be treating people with cancer with radiation. I'm like, so out of 480, they only chose 22. I was one of the lucky 22. Because I loved helping people. I was still part of the church every weekend, feeding homeless people. And I did a lot of community service. I still do, but back then it was just out of love of just, God granted me a beautiful family. I wanted to what do you call it? I wanted to do the same for somebody else. So here I was, and don't get out your Kleenex, but as I was a radiation therapy technician, one of the first patients that I took care of was a young lady named Elizabeth, and she was dying of cancer. The treatment, this is when I realized, wow, this type of care as a radiation technician, this type of care is not for everyone. You have to have a heart to love people, especially when they're dying, and you can't tell them or let them even give them a hint that you're taking that ride. So Elizabeth held my hand, and I prayed over her. I said, can I pray with you? And she's like, yes, I would like that. You know, she was like in her 20s. And so I prayed with her. And after that, the technicians came to me. Johnny, we have to have a talk with you. I'm in the office right away. And I'm like, hey, everything all right? Like, whatever you do, we don't mix religion with treatment. You violated right now. I said, yeah, well, you know, I'm Christian. It doesn't matter what you are. You can't pray with nobody. They're of their own faith. We're not here to pray with them. We're here to just treat them with the radiation and next patient. Just like that. Trust me, you'll go further with your career if you block that empathetic side. So I was like, wow, okay, I guess I'm gonna, like, you can't switch religion and love, especially when you're adopted into a Puerto Rican family. Emotions is part of your life, you know? And so I would, like, next time I saw her, I didn't want to pray with her. I was like, how you doing, Elizabeth? Johnny, how you doing? And she reached out to my hand. I grabbed her hand, and I'm like, I hope you feel better. And I could tell she really wanted me to pray with her, but I didn't want to lose this opportunity. So the following week, I went to look at her charts, and there was no more charts for her. And a woman, I don't know, it was a nurse, somebody said, Johnny, this was for you. It's from Elizabeth. I'm like, oh, so she finished her treatment? She's like, no, Johnny, she passed away, but this was for you. And it was an envelope for her telling me that the praying and the love helped her. And she was no longer alive, but that was her last cards to people. Wow. So, you know, 3 years into radiation therapy oncology, I'm about to graduate from a 2-year program. The extra year was because I wasn't as smart as the other ones, but every school or every hospital I did my rotation, everyone loved me, and they were willing to go extra to teach me. But one hospital, and again, I'm just going to keep it 1,000, the technicians, there was racism in medicine as well. This shit was not. So a woman named Pauline, she was the director of this one hospital, and she said, Johnny, where you going to next? What's your last rotation? I said, my last rotation is North Shore University Hospital. And she started to cry. And I was just like, yo, Pauline, everything all right? She's like, Johnny, they're very racist there, and you're a very nice person. I'm like, so don't worry, they're gonna like me. Now, Johnny, this hospital is the worst. They're basically known for racism, and I'm gonna have to check that. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna have to look into that. So, long story short, I get to the hospital, and they start to do a lot of crazy shit, just like Pauline. Pauline was white, you know what I'm saying? So it wasn't like I had a hatred for anybody. And they started to do a lot of fuckery, especially make comments about black people and Latin people. And, you know, I let it slide because, you know, I don't want to lose what I worked hard for. At the same time, you woke enough to know you being disrespected, and they are looking at you like they can do that and get away with it. So eventually what wound up happening is there was an accident that occurred. Not an accident. They physically harmed a black woman who was dying of AIDS, who had cancer. And as I witnessed this, I told them that I was not going to involve myself in the transfer of her body to a different position until someone fixed her head. That was the end of my medical career. Me making one complaint. They were like, who the fuck do you think you are? You don't tell us what to do. You know, it was like a movie. So I went to my roommate, because I was living with him and his wife and their kids. I said, should I make a complaint off of what I just saw? They physically harmed a black woman just to see her scream. And they said, Johnny, you do what's in your heart. So this is how I became a photographer, y'all. I went to the professors and I told them what I saw. They said, Johnny, do you have any evidence, any proof? Because these technicians, we taught them in this school, and you're telling me that they would do that. I said, check with the orderly, a woman named Rose. Check with her. She'll tell you of the shit I saw. And one time she didn't want to bring a patient because she was about to take her lunch break. And the technician said to her, you know, if the master see you, he gonna whip you good. And these white men started dancing like chucking and jiving and stuff. And she said, I'm gonna report you. So that was my proof that I'm not bugging. When I got to the hospital, all these white technicians was like, yo, who the fuck do you think you are? How dare you call us racist? You don't know who the fuck we are. And I'm like, well, listen, I saw what you, I don't give a fuck. A white woman, I think her name was Mary. You know what she did, Dren? She said, my fucking husband's a police officer and he'll shoot you in the fucking face. And one of the technicians grabbed her like, dude, chill. Like I already knew something was wrong. So an accident occurred and they blamed me for it. So three weeks from graduating, I get kicked out of the program.
Wow.
So my dad lived in Glendale now at this point, and he sold our house in Long Island. I was renting a room from my boy Louis Rentes' mom and dad. I come home and they're like, yo, Johnny, I gotta tell you, I need to rent your room. I'm like, yeah, so where am I gonna go? That's the thing, Jay. Someone's willing to pay more. I said, well, then I'll pay more. Johnny, you gotta go because we already did the lease. All right, I was like, bet. So I had to put all my stuff in storage. I went to my ex-girlfriend's crib and I said, Melinda, I just got kicked out of the medical program. She's like, yo, John, I've been meaning to tell you, I'm going to Stony Brook University and I met somebody. So I'm like, what?
Everything's happening.
So, you know, sorry, I'm in love with somebody else. So now I'm like, oh shit, all right. So I put all my stuff in storage and I didn't want to tell my father. And I always say this in all my interviews. My dad taught me that, and my mom and dad taught me that the rhinoceros is the only animal that doesn't know how to walk backwards. It can only go forward. So in life, go forward and, you know, don't go back. So I always remember that, you know what? I put my shit in storage and I said, I'm gonna thug it out. I'm gonna live in my car.